everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 6s and compare it against the iPhone 6 and see which particular phone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you in this day and age, it doesn't make any sense at all to go ahead and buy any type of phone like this. You are so much better off in every single way I can imagine to buy a phone that is still supported with software. Phones like the iPhone 10 or newer, or really any device that came out since like 2018 from Apple or above, those ones make a lot more sense to go ahead and buy rather than this thing. And I would hate for you to go ahead and buy a phone like this because this thing is already outdated. Both these phones are already outdated, and I wouldn't recommend going down the direction of purchasing either one of these phones. But luckily for you, there are phones that are still supported with software, and I will leave those linked down in the description where you can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular phones, the iPhone 6, which came out back in 2014, on the front of this particular phone is giving you a 4.7-inch Retina IPS panel on it. And, as you probably would have expected, it's a pretty basic type of panel. It's a pretty, basic type of device. That's just kind of what ends up happening when you're going through and buying devices like this because they are substantially older. So, all these phones at that time were having IPS panels, and there's not really too much we can kind of do in that standpoint. Like, it is kind of what it is. You're getting big bezels on the top and on the bottom. You're getting the, home button on the front as well. But that's kind of it. There's not really anything else super crazy going on here. And it is kind of a basic type of device when it comes down to it. It's more or less what you kind of expect. With the iPhone 6s, and they basically took the exact same thing as the iPhone 6 and just made it into a different type of device. So it's basically the same type of screen, same type of panel for the most part. You're not really getting anything super different here. It's, essentially almost the same exact thing. But I do like this, phone a lot. I think internally there were lots of changes, but externally it was more or less basically the exact same thing as we've seen year over year before. I also do think with the iPhone 6s, you were getting Touch ID 2 on the front, which was kind of a nice touch. Having Touch ID 2 is a really, really cool thing, and I definitely do think if I'm going to go through and pick up a device, that in of itself is a very cool thing going on for that particular phone when it comes down to it. So beyond that, nothing else super crazy going on here, but that kind of covers it up from that standpoint. Both are giving you lightning ports at the bottom, and both are giving you headphone jacks, and these phones were kind of the last iPhones to have headphone jacks from that standpoint too, which again is kind of funny. On the backside, you're getting your Apple logos with single camera setups on the backside, and I will tell you for the most part, both these phones in a lot of different ways were kind of like in their own world. They were, some of the best-selling iPhones of all time. The iPhone 6 was, I think, for a long time, the best-selling iPhone for a long time, and I do think that in of itself is a really cool thing. However, there are lots and lots of things that both these iPhones are missing out on that a lot of phones basically have nowadays. And first of all, there's basically like no IP certification on either one of these phones. And that is kind of a downside. Like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, the fact that both these devices don't have really any IP certification is kind of a sad thing. And I think that's kind of a humongous disadvantage here. On top of that, both these phones are also missing out on any wireless charging. So there's pretty much no wireless charging on either one of these phones, which again is very sad. And I think, there's no OLED displays, no high refresh rates. Like there's a lot of stuff these phones are missing out on. But I will say for the most part, it could be substantially worse. But for 2014 to 2015 phones, this is kind of what you'd expect. These are the type of devices that you'd expect at the end of the day. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now, from the camera side, this is also another very crazy thing going on here because both these phones are slightly different, but they're also very, very similar. So first of all, the layout of these cameras look almost identically the same. Like we've talked about before, whether, whatever phone you're going to be getting, they look kind of like the same type of device if they kind of come down to it, right? But there's a big difference when it comes down to the camera qualities. So on the back side of the iPhone 6, you were basically tapped out at 1080p video. So you could, get 1080p video, but that was it. With the iPhone 6s, they actually went ahead and improved that to 4K video. So now with the iPhone 6s, you were able to film in 4K, and that was actually the first iPhone that allowed you to film in 4K video, which again is a super crazy thing to have. Imagine being able to go through and jump from 1080p to 4K just from going from one phone to the other. That was a pretty big difference, and just from a one cycle upgrade, this was probably the biggest difference, and we haven't even gotten another big resolution upgrade. We've gotten 4K at 60, but we haven't gotten like 8K yet on any iPhone. So far this has been really the biggest upgrade I would say from a camera quality standpoint from any iPhone. So definitely from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 6s, there was actually a very, very big upgrade from a camera standpoint from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 6s in my personal opinion. So once again, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, the 6S back then would have been the better one, but clearly now, I mean, even the iPhone 10 is going to be giving you a substantially better device than this particular phone. So once again, kind of keep that in mind as well. Now, when it comes down to the whole entire other side of these phones, like from the software side, this is probably one of the biggest differences these devices kind of have compared to phones nowadays. The problem that we kind of have, okay, is that both these phones are done getting software support, and they've not only are they done getting software support, they've been done getting software support for so many years now. So because of that, it just doesn't make any sense to go ahead and buy any sort of phone like this anymore. I've always felt like if you're going to go through and pick up a device, you have to kind of buy a phone that is still going to be supported with software. That way you still have something to look forward to, and your phone is getting more and more secure. If you're going to go through and like pick up a phone, you have to make sure it has some sort of software updates ahead of it, because if you don't, you're just going to run into problems. And with both these phones, you're going to be buying phones that are done getting software support, and they've been done getting software support for years. You have nothing else to look forward to. There's barely any security updates coming out for these things. And if there's a very big security problem that happens, there's a high chance these phones are not going to be giving you any security updates there. So like I said, I would much rather you just go through and purchase a device that is still basically going to be supported with software, and neither one of these are basically going to be giving you that. So once again, just another very big thing to keep in mind here as well. To end it off with the performance, this is also another very funny thing, because with the iPhone 8 and with the iPhone 6, this phone is giving you the Apple A8 chip inside of it with 1GB of RAM, and the iPhone 6S was giving you the Apple A9 chip inside of it with 2GB of RAM. This iPhone pretty much doubled the performance within one generation. You're getting twice the amount of RAM, and that chipset inside it was also a very good chipset that I loved a lot about that particular device too. So in a lot of different ways, if you were going to go through and pick up a phone, in my opinion, it made a lot more sense to go ahead and buy something like the iPhone 6S and then the iPhone 6, even for iPhone 6 owners at the time, because the performance and the cameras were so much better. And if you look at the software updates, the iPhone 6 ended off with iOS 12, the iPhone 6S ended off with iOS, 15. That's a massive difference because the iPhone 6S could have handled it. So the performance here was just substantially better in almost every single way on the iPhone 6S than on the iPhone 6. So that right there was another very big thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. So to sum it up, what I'll definitely tell you, if you're going to go and pick up a phone, it doesn't make a lot of sense to buy either one of these. And I would highly recommend not buying either one of these phones when it comes down to it. You are much, much, much better off buying a phone that is still going to be supported with software. And, I would tell you buy a phone like the iPhone 10R, iPhone 11, iPhone 12. Those phones are just so much better in every single way, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to go and buy these devices anymore when it comes down to it. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys